In today's episode, we're talking about embracing pain. So, what that means is not forcing yourself through pain. It doesn't mean just brute forcing it and just saying, I'm going to deal with the pain and get over it. It's not about being tougher. That's not what it's about. It's actually about saying, how can I have gratitude and even love and compassion for what I'm going through right now? And most importantly, it's about how do I find joy and fulfillment in my life even while I'm dealing with pain. That's what today's episode is about. Those of you who are joining live, you can comment at any time. I will respond to your questions. If they're relevant, I'll do it right away. If they are a little tangential, I'll set aside time to do a Q&A and answer any of your questions at the end. But this is live. Let's get into it. So today we're going to be talking about an interesting philosophical question around chronic pain that I think will reframe your perspective, because the most important thing is what I see on social media is everybody's promising you that you're going to instantly fix your pain permanently. It's just going to be, oh, I just need to find the next perfect exercise or the correct magic muscle of the week to stretch, and I'm magically going to have pain. Unfortunately, that sets you up for really, really bad expectations and a bad mindset. And it sets you up for failure when it comes to chronic pain rehab. Because then when you try something and it doesn't immediately and permanently work, you assume nothing works. But the problem was the expectation, not the methodology, right? Exercise works, lifestyle changes work. They're just slow and it takes time and it's not perfect. So we'll talk about that. I'll talk about my story and some of the stuff that I went through, because I had tons of fear and anxiety and panic attacks around my pain, and something that really helped shift my nervous system and my mindset so that I wasn't spiraling and catastrophizing around my own chronic pain. And then I think a big thing that comes along with this is when we talk about mindset and the nervous system, sometimes we get into this sort of fake positivity space where it can feel like we're just trying to pump you full of positivity and say, like, just pretend everything's okay. Pretend like your world is not falling apart right now at the seams. Like everything in your world is not, you're not dealing with severe depression or anxiety or hardship in your life. And it feels like fake positivity sometimes. And we don't want that. We don't want you to just have to pretend to be positive and pretend everything is okay. That's not helpful. And then at the end, I'm going to wrap up with some practical takeaways, some mindset practices you can do, as well as a couple of things that you can apply to your exercises. But most importantly, a bit of a homework assignment for you really on how to apply this to real life, and stop thinking about just which exercise should I do and what muscles should I stretch and which breathing technique should I do, and start looking at the big picture of your life. Because just because you're dealing with chronic pain does not mean you have to put your life on hold forever until your pain is better. Oh, I can't do anything until my pain is better. That's not necessarily true. And trust me, we've worked with people who they come to us in wheelchairs. We've worked with people who are completely bedridden, like literally using a bedpan. They can't go to the bathroom. So trust me, it's not that I'm unsympathetic, and it's not that we haven't seen really, really bad and tough cases. It's that even in those tough cases, it is possible to find meaning and joy in your life and a reason to get out of bed in the morning. Even if you can't literally get out of bed, there's still reasons to get up and or not, again, even there, I have to be careful with my language, metaphorically get up, right? Wake up. There's something you can do, I promise. Okay. So no false positivity. Yeah. Somebody put in there about John Sarno. John Sarno is a lot of just like, think your way out of pain. And if you just believe you don't have pain, then you're going to magically not have pain. And although there are some good things that came out of John Sarno's work, we've learned a lot in decades of research since that book and that methodology and tension myositis syndrome were published. Okay. We've learned a lot since then. All right, let's get into it. First question, and this is sort of the frame for the whole episode, is think about this in the back of your head as we're talking about everything else. The first question to just ask yourself and meditate on for a bit, and not just now, don't even just answer it right now, but think about this as an ongoing question to continue to ask yourself throughout your rehab process is, would you rather, all right, let's do a would you rather. Would you rather live your life with no pain, but you cannot do any of the activities that you like. You can't, like, whether that's going out with family or hiking or playing sports or exercising, you cannot do any of the things you like. Basically, you have to live entirely at home. You can't go out. You can't do activities. You can't really live a normal life, but you don't have any pain or any symptoms. All right. That's option one. Option two is you have some amount of pain for the rest of your life, but you can do most of the things that you want. So if that's playing sports or hiking or biking or hanging out with your family or travel and sitting on a plane for 12 hours, all that kind of stuff, you can do pretty much all the things that you want to do, but you still have some pain and it's never going to go away completely. All right, that's option two. So option one, no pain, but you really can't do anything in your life. Option two, you do have pain. It never gets to 100. It never gets 100% better, but you can do pretty much everything that you want to do in your life. And actually, I'd be really curious in the comments, if you do have an answer to this, put it in the comments. I'm curious what you guys would say. Zero pain, but you can't do anything in your life, or you have some pain for the rest of your life, but you can do everything you want. All right. And you know that it's safe to do it, and you know it's not going to injure you just because it's a little bit painful. All right. Which one would you do? Comment I already see somebody. Yeah. Option two is probably what most of you would say, but sometimes people surprise me. So let's see. Now let's move on. Think about that as we're talking about everything else. So what is pain? Pain exists for a reason. People who do not feel any pain die very early because pain is a warning system. So we need to have pain. So we should be able to have some genuine gratitude for the fact that we have a functioning pain alarm system to keep us safe and keep us out of danger. Okay? Genuinely, we can be grateful for that. Unfortunately, what happens with chronic pain is that alarm system, although it's on, it's functioning, it's hypersensitive, it's overactive, it's sounding the alarm system all the time. Okay. We don't want that. We don't want that. The problem is with chronic pain, again, it is telling us something, but oftentimes it's not telling us the thing that we think it's telling us. Usually you assume, well, of course, my pain alarm system is telling me that I'm causing damage to my spine. When I bend forward, it hurts. I get shooting pain down my leg, or I get pain in my glute or in my back. It's telling me that I'm causing damage to my nerve, or a disc herniation, or a degeneration, or a ligament, or a muscle, or whatever. Okay. That's a logical conclusion, but most of the time with chronic pain, it's not true. Most of the time, chronic pain is telling us a different story. It still wants to get our attention. It's just not actually about damage. And if you think it's about damage, it's going to make all the other factors, the stress and the fear and the anxiety and the worry, much worse, especially when we fight it, right? What we resist persists. What we resist persists. If we just push against pain and fight against pain and try to, view it like an enemy, it's going to magnify the problem because we're just thinking about it constantly. So pain is often telling us that there is something else in our life that we need to address. Many times it's a relationship issue or a work issue or a stress issue. Sometimes it's a sleep or a nutrition issue. It could be a life circumstances issue. There's a lot of other things that are going on in our lives that pain is just very effective at getting your attention. It's just misleading thinking about damage. It's not about damage most of the time with chronic pain. Okay. So I see your questions, by the way. I see a lot of stuff coming in live. I will, at the end of this, I'm going to do a full Q&A. So any questions, if you stick around to the end, I will answer all of those questions at the end. Okay. This is live. So A little bit about my story. All right. My story, when I had chronic pain in just about every joint you can imagine, back pain radiating down into my leg, through my SI joint. I kind of felt like I had like a knife in my back, kind of stabbing, sort of sharp, stabbing pain. I had shoulder pain, hip pain. Both my hips have labral tears. My shoulder has a labral tear, a neck injury from martial arts, shooting pain into my arm, chronic fatigue, brain fog, panic attacks, anxiety attacks, numbness and tingling in my arms and my feet, just a lot of weird symptoms. So understandably, I was freaked out about it. And what I tried to do was every time I had those symptoms come on, because it caused panic attacks, and I thought the panic attacks were going to cause either a heart attack or a stroke or a seizure or something really serious, like a medical emergency, I was really genuinely terrified that I would literally die if I let my symptoms just happen. Right. So I felt like I had to constantly fight against it. I had to push back against my symptoms, because if I let them take a hold of me, then it would be the end of me. Like, it would be the end of my life. Literally. That's how freaked out I was. So, I was literally like popping bare aspirin, because I thought I was going to have a heart attack, and I was like, oh, well, at least then I'll survive. Anyway, so what happened eventually is I felt, I'm going to use some wishy-washy, a little bit woo-woo language here. So my science friends, please just hang in there. But my yoga friends, hey, this is your world, all right? So I'm just going to use it to describe it, because when you're really dealing with this kind of stuff, it's just hard to put really concrete language. So just bear with me. When I was dealing with chronic pain, it felt like there was a monster or a dragon out to get me. It felt like there was this sort of thing, this entity lurking in the shadows that was always just one step away from getting me and causing some horrible thing to happen in my life and with my health. I was running away constantly. I was fighting it. I was trying to dodge it. Oh, I'm over here. I'm over here, right? I did not want to let any symptom happen. Anytime I felt a symptom, I had to like pop it, rub it, crack it, put something on it, run away from it, like fidget, move. I couldn't just take a breath and just be okay with it. I was not capable of doing that. Eventually, what happened was, unfortunately, I started coping with the pain with alcohol and drinking my way out of pain. That got really bad. I ended up in the hospital with alcohol poisoning, and I nearly died. So my coping strategy nearly, talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh my gosh. So eventually I got sober. While I was getting sober, while I was in rehab, I was sitting there having the worst panic attacks of my life. I say panic attacks because it was like every hour I had another panic attack. And on top of that, I was like delirium tremens. I was shaking and sweating and like basically hallucinating because of the withdrawal. It was really bad. I had every reason to be afraid of my symptoms, more so than I ever had in my life. And at that moment, when things were at their worst, was when I just kind of decided I was done fighting it. I was just tired from fighting it every second of every day. So I sat down, I took a breath, I closed my eyes, and I basically just decided, like, I'm going to metaphorically just stare the dragon, the monster, in the eye and just say, like, come at me, bro. So I did. So I sat down, I closed my eyes, I breathed, and I could feel this like wave of pressure coming at me. Like I was being swallowed whole by a dragon. I know it's dramatic language, but this is what it felt like in the moment. Okay. You got to understand. I was sweating, shaking, just in the worst situation in my life. And this is what it felt like. It felt like letting myself get swallowed whole by this fear dragon or fear monster that I had created over years and years of these chronic symptoms. And when I let it finally just kind of like swallow me whole, it felt like I was spit out the other side with not fear, not pain, not anxiety, not numbness, not tingling, not the shakes, not disorientation and delusions, and none of that. I felt alive. I felt euphoric. I felt at peace for the first time in years. This is something I had to practice for a long time. Anytime that I would have these, because it's not like my symptoms then were gone forever and that's it, and everything was good and all I need you to do is practice some visualization technique, just do a breathing technique and everything will be fine. No, I kept having panic attacks, I kept having chronic pain symptoms, and I kept having to put it into practice. Oh, and then I had to do the really hard work of getting physically fit again and starting to practice mobility and strength, and I got really into yoga and I became a yoga teacher, and then I started strength training, and that helped because I was hypermobile. I saw somebody in the comments earlier say that they're hypermobile. Hey, me too. Welcome to the hypermobile club, right? So as I started to strength train, as I started to be able to control my panic attacks and my fear, I'm just curious here. That's an anxiety attack, doesn't work on severe ongoing. Yeah. Okay. All right. I understand that I'm talking about an anxiety attack, but I don't think you understand what I'm saying either. So let me explain. I was having anxiety attacks because of my chronic pain symptoms. And then the chronic pain and the anxiety attacks fed each other. So I would have physical symptoms of radiating nerve pain going down my arm and my leg and into my back and into my hands and into my calf. I would have chronic pain, like what felt like nerve pain symptoms. Okay. It felt like musculoskeletal pain symptoms, but it caused me to freak out. And that caused an anxiety attack. And the anxiety attack made the chronic pain symptoms that felt like nerves and muscles and joints worse. So I mean this with respect, because I think you just didn't have the full story. But if you, I don't want to be too harsh, but don't come at me and tell me, well, that's just an anxiety attack. And that's like that. It feels like you're telling me that what I went through is not a big deal. So respectfully, please understand that it was a combination of things happening. Nerve stuff, muscle stuff, joint stuff, and my mental health and nervous system and anxiety was dogpiling on top of my symptoms. So respectfully, it absolutely does work. Okay. Not trying to come at you, but I think it's really important to clear that up, because the point here, this is the whole point, is that your mind and your nervous system versus your body and your joints and your muscles and the discs and the whatever nerves, they're not separate things. They're in the same body. It's all part of one human organism. You can't separate the nervous system from the muscular system, from the endocrine system, from the immune system. You can't separate these systems. They're all happening at the same time, and they're all interacting at the same time. And for a lot of the people that we work with, they're dealing with this overlap of symptoms. And the whole reason I'm making this episode today on embracing pain is because so many people that we work with in our Beyond Back Pain program, when we're working with people one-on-one, or we're just talking to you guys here, wherever on the internet, so many people, the reason their pain is amplified. Again, this is pain that they feel. I feel it in my glute. It feels like a knife in my glute, or I feel shooting pain down my leg, or I have numbness in my toes, or I have my back muscles cramp up and spasm every time that I do this activity, or bending or lifting or twisting or whatever, right? These are physical sounding symptoms, but so many of you, the moment you have those symptoms, you freak out, you panic, you're worried, you think that you're going to make it worse, and then you can't stop thinking about it. And what happens when we can't stop thinking about it? We magnify the problem. So we have a fancy term, we call it catastrophization. Okay? When you catastrophize, you're making everything worse. What that means is that you're thinking about it too much. So catastrophization has three parts. You've got rumification. You're thinking about it too much. Magnification. You're making it seem like a bigger and worse issue than it is. And helplessness, which is, I feel like I can't do anything about it. And so when we're in that state and we're just constantly dwelling on it, right? Sorry, I made up a word. Rumification, ruminate. When we're ruminating on it, right? We're just dwelling on it. We're thinking about it constantly, and we can't get it out of our head. That makes the pain worse. And then you're magnifying, and then you feel helpless. Okay. We have to get you out of that state. And the biggest reason that I'm telling my story of what I was dealing with is because I was doing that as well. And it was magnifying all of that combined symptom hellhole that I was in. Okay. If we can stop dwelling on it, then the pain usually will get better, as long as we're also doing the right things long term, which means taking care of yourself, working on mobility and strength, reducing stress, fear, anxiety, depression, etc. Getting decent sleep, eating some decent food. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you got to be doing the basics. That's the long-term solution. And if we get super in our head about the fear and the pain and, oh, it won't go away and something new came up and now it's over here, but it used to be over here, all that stuff is just going to make the pain worse. And then you're not going to want to do your exercises because you're freaked out and you think, well, if the pain is getting different or worse, or it's up and down and I don't know what's causing it, then it's not safe to exercise. So then you stop doing your exercises, which is the thing that's going to help you get better. Do you see this spiral? So we have to stop this. Okay. We have to break the cycle. All right. So now let's talk, and I appreciate your comments, by the way. I see your comments and I appreciate you. I will, and I see actually a lot of comments. We will get to that and we'll do Q&A at the end. Okay. So I'm here to answer any of your questions. Now, let's talk about how do we break that cycle. Okay. First things first, we do want to pump you full of education on actual evidence-based, like real research on chronic pain, because the more you understand about disc herniations and nerve pain and joint pain and alignment and asymmetry and muscle imbalances, and the fact that those things either are not real or they don't matter, because everybody has a short leg, everybody has an anterior pelvic tilt or a non-neutral pelvis, everybody's asymmetrical, most people have disc herniations on their MRI, whether or not they have pain. Yes, even with nerve compression and a little bit of stenosis, that stuff is really common, even with people who have zero symptoms. The more we understand about that, the more we can take a breath, relax, stop freaking out about it. That's number one. All right. Number two is we want to do something to regulate our nervous system. And yes, of course, we can use breathing and meditation and visualization and journaling, and we could do a gratitude journal. So there's a lot of different things we can do for that. But unfortunately, a lot of times, if we start to go down that rabbit hole, those are good things. All of the things I just named, good things. What we don't want to do is make you feel like we're just trying to trick you into being positive. And we're trying to get you to just forget about how bad things can get when you're dealing with chronic pain. Because then we actually create more suffering. So I'm going to just get a little bit philosophical, because before I got my master's and my doctorate and all that, I started as a yoga teacher, and I love Eastern philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, which is non-religious. So if anybody's listening to this and you're religious, that's okay. This is philosophy, not religion. So in Buddhism, which again is non-theistic, it's non-religious, it's philosophy. In Buddhism, we look at life as like, oh, we have unavoidable suffering in our life. You get sick, we get old, we die, we lose people that we love. We have good days, we have bad days. These things are unavoidable. The reason we suffer is different. We suffer because we are attached to having as much pleasure as possible, and we have aversions to pain. We want to have as little pain as possible and as much pleasure as possible. But we can't control that. And so we suffer because reality is not in line with our unrealistic expectations. So one of the things that can help is resetting our expectations on chronic pain rehab. So instead of saying, I'm going to have as much pleasure as possible and as little pain as possible, we can say, how can we find a way to have some amount of peace in our heart, peace in our life, joy and fulfillment in our life, something to look forward to? How can we have those things even if we have a good day or a bad day? Whether we have a day with less symptoms or we have a day where we really can't get out of bed because our symptoms are so bad. Is there still a way that on the good day and the bad day, the peaks and the valleys, the ups and the downs, can we still have something to look forward to and some amount of joy in our life? And this goes back to our original question, which is, would you rather have a life where you have no pain, but you cannot leave the house, you can't go do any of the activities you like, but you have no pain? Or would you rather live a life where you do have pain, it never really gets 100% better, but you can do more and more activities, right? You can do the things you like, you can get out, you can travel, you can exercise, you can hang out with the people you want to hang out with, right? Which would you rather? No pain, but you can't really do any activities, or you've got pain, but you can live the life you want to live? Which would you rather, right? And so if we can move beyond attachment and aversion, trying to have as much pleasure as possible and avoid pain at all costs, then we can have more peace and joy in our heart, and we can stop that catastrophization spiral, that freaking out because of our pain. Okay? So we want to step back into a place of non-attachment. However, just a cautionary tale on that, because there's a lot of what we would call spiritual bypassing that happens in like yoga and meditation and mindfulness communities and circles, where you start to then ignore red flags, ignore bad behavior, ignore anything bad because it's some spiritual lesson, right? Or forcing everything to feel positive. Like, well, you're really what do the kids say these days? You're harshing my vibes, right? It's like you're bringing down the vibration. No, sometimes things just suck, especially with chronic pain. I know. Sometimes things just suck. But the trick here is not trying to stuff it down and not trying to turn a crappy experience or a depressing experience into something magical. The skill is to be able to find peace in your heart, even though sometimes things suck, and to be able to be patient and let these things pass and let these things change. And that is incredibly difficult to do. But if you practice, you can find more of a stable anchor in that up and down that chronic pain can bring with it. Okay. So let's move on to some practical takeaways. Again, I see all the comments that are coming in. We'll do Q&A at the end. All right. A couple of practical things that I want to get to first. So practical takeaways. First things first, a mindset thing. So a little trick you can play on yourself while you're spiraling or catastrophizing. And that is, well, if I'm telling you we don't have to push away the pain, maybe in the title of this episode, I said, embrace the pain. And I mean it. When I say embrace the pain, I don't mean like no pain, no gain. Let's just be tough and let's push through suffering, bro. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean literally stepping back and looking at your pain and looking at yourself, kind of stepping outside of yourself and looking at yourself like a parent, a mother or a father, looking at a suffering child who just had an injury or some kind of pain or some kind of heartbreak or some difficult thing in their life, and literally embracing that inner child. And I know this, again, this is not as woo-woo as it might sound. This is very, very rooted in modern psychology research, where if you can parent yourself and you can just have, the other term for it is self-compassion, right? Some people do better with the visualization of literally pretending like they are a parent to their own inner child. But if that seems silly, then just stop being so freaking mean to yourself. All right. It doesn't have to be woo woo. I don't care. Just don't be a dick to yourself. Right. Love yourself. Be kind to yourself. and have some understanding that if you're suffering, it's okay to just metaphorically or in your mind embrace yourself and love yourself as though you were a child who is suffering, the same way that you would do for somebody that you love. If your own family member was suffering, would you be a dick to them? Would you talk to them the same way that you talk to yourself? I'm never going to get better. I'm going to need surgery. I'm going to be like this forever. Nobody cares about me. Nobody's helping me. Would you talk to somebody else that way that you loved? I don't think so. Embrace the pain. Embrace that suffering inner child. And again, I don't know how much I can emphasize that this doesn't have to be woo-woo unless you like that stuff. Be kind. Embrace it. It's okay. I know it's tough. Acknowledge it. We're acknowledging that we're dealing with a hard time, but we're also not going to let the hard time control our lives. Okay? That's step one. Number two, ask if the pain is trying to tell you something. Okay, so we embrace it, we love it, we accept it, and then we say, well, what is this pain trying to tell us? Well, and it might be telling you that you're overtraining or that you're undertraining, you're doing too much too fast, or that you're doing too little for too long. It may be telling you that we need to change what activities or exercises you're doing. Sure, that's the obvious thing that most people think of, and you should listen to it. But a lot of people misinterpret that and say that any pain is dangerous. And so any pain means I should stop doing things. Not necessarily. The other thing that can come up is we have tons of people who have been dealing with anxiety, depression, fear, trauma, loss, moving across the country, major life changes, grief, you name it, things in their life that are just difficult and it's affecting their mental health and they're not really addressing it. Or if they're addressing it, they don't really have support for it. And it's just tough, And so it's way easier to reach for a biomechanical solution and just say, oh, well, I just have to stretch my hip flexor, instead of actually getting to the root of it and saying like, holy shit, I need to cut out my toxic friend group or end a toxic relationship, or actually go to therapy because I went through a divorce or trauma or something like that. That's a way harder answer, but it's a way better answer. Now, those things like therapy on its own is not like a chronic pain rehab path. It's one component that can help a lot of people, but we still then also need to integrate the other parts of our life and prove to our body that exercise is safe and all that kind of stuff. So a practical tip for that side of things on the exercise side, as far as, do we embrace the pain? Do we push through the pain, or do we avoid the pain? Where is that middle ground? We have something called our safe pain protocols. If you're already in our program, then you know about these. We harp on these all the time, but basically we've got our traffic light, no risk principle, and centralization. The really, really short explanation on that, we have videos on that. And then if you need more details, just join our memberships. We have a free membership, a do-it-yourself thing. We can build your program if you want one-on-one support. But we've got some free resources on our safe pain protocols inside our community as well. Okay, so if you understand that like mild pain, mild symptoms are probably fine to push through. Really, really, really severe stuff, yeah, we probably need to modify your exercises. And then we've got this middle ground where it's probably okay to continue to exercise as long as things are not getting worse. That's the really, really, really short version. All I'm saying is like, be like Goldilocks. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about, and this is really taking everything we've discussed today, embracing the pain, moving beyond, avoiding pain at all costs versus trying to have as much pleasure as possible, resetting our expectations so we understand that pain rehab is going to take time. It's not going to be perfect. We need to focus on long-term lifestyle changes. And then how do we drive this home in a practical way right now, today, while things are really challenging and while things can get really, really frustrating or depressing, and you might be in a fear state or spiral right now, maybe while you're listening to this. And I trust me, I know I can relate to that. What do we do? What do we do today? The biggest thing is, while we're implementing a long-term solution, let's find ways that you can bring more joy into your life, more fulfillment into your life, a reason to get up in the morning, right? Something that you're looking forward to. So that can be, one thing is like there's actually a book on this, The Gift of Injury. Oh gosh, I forget the power lifter's name in the book, but basically the moral of the story was this power lifter had a major injury, and obviously it's incredibly frustrating. I'm pretty sure he had like a massive disc herniation, and then as a result, the gift of injury was he learned how to better take care of himself, and then he ended up bouncing back and getting even stronger, and then setting a world record for, I believe it was a barbell back squat. So he literally bounced back stronger. And I think that's a really important takeaway, that if we look at, actually, I'll say this from my personal experience. I am genuinely so grateful for the decade plus of suffering that I went through. I really am. I really am grateful for it, because if I wasn't forced through that level of just absolute hell and torment because of the chronic pain and the other chronic symptoms that I was having, and then, how bad it got. If I wasn't forced through that, I never would have been forced to learn how to take care of my body. I never would have gone back to school and got my master's and my doctorate and all these certifications in yoga and really dive into, meditation and Eastern philosophy and learning how to just take care of myself and be the best version of myself. And I'm still working on that. But now I'm on that path, and I wouldn't be on that path if I had just drifted along with the normal kind of ups and downs that most people have, just suffering a little bit, this low level mediocrity that most people live in, where their life is not great. They don't, they're not super happy, but nothing really bad ever happens to them. And so they're not forced to change it. They just drift along comfortably numb. Okay. I have become comfortably numb, right? We don't want that. So there can be a gift in having to actually deal with this level of suffering and be forced to learn how to take care of yourself, be the best version of yourself, and change your life, right? But unfortunately, to change, you have to change, and that is tough. So anyway, while you're dealing with that, are there other things you can do? Well, if you like playing sports, well, maybe there's something that you can do that doesn't involve being on your feet. Like, what is it about sports that brings you fulfillment? I like hanging out with a team of other people that are like-minded. I like getting outside. I just like socializing. Okay, can you socialize without playing soccer or football or whatever, ice hockey or running or whatever? Can you do that? Can you socialize without doing that? Sure. Book clubs, board game clubs, go to church if that's your thing, whatever. There's lots of communities where you don't have, we join our community, right? Whatever. What about getting outside into nature? Do you have to play sports to get into nature? Hell no, right? You can just go hang out on a park bench. I know driving is hard for some people. So sometimes you got to get creative. Maybe somebody else can drive and you can recline and kind of be laying down during the journey. I don't know. My point is somehow, some way, just open your window, like there's something you can do. There's something for sure. Watch. And if all of that fails, go watch a Planet Earth documentary. I don't care. Do something, right? You don't have to just doom scroll and think about your pain constantly and just get sucked into this downward spiral of chronic pain misery. You don't have to do that. Do something. So what else can you do? What else can you do? I guarantee there's something. All right. And it's not that one thing, like just getting some nature and just go hang out on a park bench and just go join a book club. Oh, that's going to magically fix your pain. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you don't have to put your life on hold just because you're dealing with chronic pain. Okay. And I guarantee you, if you're like, well, no, you don't understand, Anthony. My life is way worse than you're describing. Okay, fine. For sure. I hear you. But is it possible, hypothetically, could you picture a universe in which there is somebody out there who has it worse than you? Maybe they're quadriplegic. Maybe they had an even worse injury, or maybe their situation is even worse, or they've had more heartbreak and loss. And I mean, if you really want to get grim about it, let's expand our thinking to the global catastrophes that people are living through on a daily basis. And I can't even imagine the not just emotional trauma, physical trauma, injuries, losing their lives, their houses, their whole cities and towns. I mean, I'm not trying to get political here. That's why I'm not naming any particular place on the planet. I'm just saying, could you picture somebody out there in the world who has it worse than you and is still somehow happier, or at least more present moment, not swallowed whole by their suffering? Could you imagine that there might be somebody out there that's capable of doing that? And if they're capable of doing it, why not you? Okay? So I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying that if we can find that mentality and find a reason to persist, and if you really want a good book on it, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, really, really good book on that, finding meaning in the most horrific of circumstances you could possibly imagine. Anyway, find some meaning, find something to do, even if it's small, even if it's tiny, even if it's for 1 minute a day. Bring some joy into your life, bring some fulfillment in your life. Realize that pain can be a teacher. Embrace that part of you that's suffering and offer it love and compassion and tenderness instead of trying to ignore it and force it away and looking at it like an enemy, because that just magnifies the whole problem and makes things worse. If you need more help, we're here to help. We have a free course with free resources. We have a free community. We have our do-it-yourself course that gives you everything you possibly need to build your own workouts. And you can talk to Dr. Blake and myself if you want, or we can just build a program for you. If you need any of that, the link is always in the description of our videos. That's it for today, and we'll see you on the next episode. Okay. Now, that I'm going to cut that off, and that's for a podcast. Those of you who are live, we got a bunch of questions and stuff like that. So let's chat. What's on your minds? I'm going to go through and read previous questions, but I'll hang out for a little while and answer some questions, whatever you got. So if you have questions, this is live. Put your questions in the thing. All right. Okay. Give me just a second here. Let me just get my bearings. And let me just do this for you too, in case, because I said that about our courses and stuff. So if anybody does need some help, let me find the link. Oh no, where'd that link go? That's okay. I'll find it in a second. I will get to your questions. I do see all your questions. Sorry. We're, just a slight delay here. Let me just pull up. I had to shut down at the beginning of this. My internet basically crashed, so I had to shut down every tab and application and everything like that. And I've got crazy ADHD, so when I have tabs open, I've got 4 windows and 20 tabs each, and so it just crashes my computer. So, all right, here we go. Here and here. Okay, cool. Guys, if you need any help, go here. All right. Again, free community. We've got a do-it-yourself program. And then if you want us to actually write your program for you, and have unlimited, support from me and Dr. Blake, then jump in there as well. Okay. It's all in that one link. Okay. Now let's take questions. All right. So let me scroll back. Sorry, guys. We have a bunch of questions here that stacked up. So let me just kind of scroll back a little bit and see what we've got here. Okay. So we had a question. Apur Vakasha, can you tell me some exercises for extension, back pain, also with shoulder problem? I can't find other than generic. Okay. So crash course on this. Extension plus shoulder pain. Stop thinking that you're going to find exercises specifically for one type of joint or muscle or intolerance. That's not how we approach rehab. We approach rehab by looking at full body progressions of mobility, strength, and cardio. And then you just need to slowly work your way up over time. Okay. That's the most important thing. Does that make sense? And then you just need to get really familiar with our safe pain protocols. We actually have examples of that in our free course in the free community. I dropped a link on that. But really, like, don't, if you think that you're just going to find some specific exercise for an extension intolerance, or pain with extension, or pain in the extensor muscles of the back, it's just not really how it works. We just need to gradually get overall fitness, and we will address all of your ranges of motion along the way. That's the most important thing. And then don't forget about other lifestyle changes. Okay. Ben said a number of things. Ben's also hypermobile. Yeah, trust me, I know. You wanted to know about central sensitization. Hey, Ben, if you're still, oh yeah, okay, you are still there. Here, give me a second, Ben. Have you seen our central sensitization video? Let me know in the chat if you're still here. I'm assuming your name is Ben. Your username has Ben in the name, so I have no idea if that's actually your name, but you asked about central sensitization, and then now you said can't sit or lay down, hard to talk or type. I believe you suffered. I'm 69 and was a dancer, can walk and bend with pain, not afraid, just in pain. I guess I need gabapentin, not afraid to move. Okay. What is your question about central sensitization? And then I'm while you answer that, what do you want to know about central sensitization? That was your first question. I've been doing the accept work for 2.5 years. I understand. Yes, it makes it worse. Yeah. Okay. Let me do this, guys. If you haven't, actually, honestly, the best way to do this, our pain neuroscience mini series is inside of our free community as well. And then you can actually, it's also on YouTube. I mean, you could just look for our pain neuroscience mini series, but it would be better if you are in our free community, because then you can actually post in our community forum and you can just ask us questions here. So if you join, again, you can join for free. The free community, I gave you a bunch of resources and courses, or a free course and like our masterclass and some additional downloadable resources and workout guides and stuff. But if you just want like all of our workout builders and all of our course stuff, that's in our basic access. And then you can access all of our courses. And then of course, if you want us, like me and Dr. Blake, to actually write your program for you, and you want one-on-one support, then that's all the options are in that link. So you can check that out. But like I said, the pain neuroscience mini series is in there. I think it's probably video. Oh gosh, I don't know. I think central sensitization is maybe the 6th video in that 8-part series. So you can feel free, once you're in there, you can jump around and just watch the one on central sensitization. But yeah, if you've been dealing with pain for a long time and many years, and you've been trying some of the, you called it acceptance work, then I mean, mindset work and, peace and gratitude and, nervous system regulation and stuff like that. The thing that we see is the reason why that doesn't always do the trick for people is because we also have to address exercise. We can't do just one or the other. We can't just do exercise, but we can't just do stress management or nervous system regulation. We have to do both, and they have to, I guess, integrate with each other. So if, for example, I know you said you're not afraid to move. That's okay. But we do have a lot of people who don't have a lot of confidence about exercising because they're afraid they're going to hurt themselves. And so we need your nervous system to be on board before we can start exercising. But then we have to actually exercise to get proof, evidence of safety, so that your nervous system believes it's safe. So they go together, is what I'm saying. If you're not afraid to move, then what are you doing for exercise, right? We still need to be exercising. You said you were exercising. You said, I'm too complicated. I'm trying to avoid meds. Some people flare. I'm always in a flare. I do have to do everything on my own. 2.5 years. I was exercising, but are you still exercising? If so, What are you doing? If not, why not? Because we have to do both. We have to address both of those things. Okay. I'm going to take some other questions and feel free to tell me any additional information that you want. And I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Okay. So what other kinds of questions do we have in here? I'm just scrolling back for a little bit. Somebody asked why my hip arthritis doesn't reduce. You can't change arthritis. You can slow it down. You can slow down the progression of arthritis, but you don't really need to worry about arthritis most of the time. If we address lifestyle factors and mobility and strength and physical function and stress and sleep and nutrition, if we just take care of your lifestyle, then the arthritis doesn't really matter most of the time. Sometimes people have really, really, really severe arthritis, and hip surgeries can be helpful for some people. But those are pretty extreme cases. Most of the time, if we actually do a proper rehab program, we don't need that stuff. Wade says having some pain in your life is called getting older. That said, to my question earlier of would you rather have no pain but you can't do anything in your life versus have some pain but be able to do all the activities in your life, all of you that answered the question said that you would prefer to have some pain but be able to live your life. Robin says and actually I think Robin put another question here, but let me just answer because you had a few different comments. So let me see if I can kind of put it all together. You described my situation for me. Oh gosh, you got a lot of comments. Give me a second. I just want to catch up on all of these things. So for me, I had a neck issue that gave me vertigo and I can't work anymore at like 4 p.m. I don't know if it's stress or a neck problem. Earlier when I was talking about panic, it sounds like I was describing your situation exactly. Then you asked about getting cracked by a chiropractor. Chiropractic treatment is unnecessary. It's just pain relief. They don't do anything. They don't put bones back into place. They don't fix alignment. None of that is real. That's all just made up stuff. Don't worry about it. If getting adjusted by a chiropractor feels good and you go into it knowing that it's just there for a short-term pain reliever, and you don't mind paying for it, then by all means. But otherwise, it's not worth your time or your money. How long does it take to get rid of panic attacks? And then thanks for the live. When I work too much on my laptop, I have neck pain and then vertigo and nausea. I don't know if it's neck pain problem or the reaction to the pain. Okay, so Robin, I'm trying to piece together all the things you're saying from you had a lot of different comments throughout this live stream. So from what it sounds like, it does sound like the type of situation we see with a lot of our clients who have what we would call neuroplastic or nociplastic pain symptoms, which is where the nervous system is hyperprotective. There are stress factors that are influencing pain, in which case we, like I said, need to address the stress, address the fear. You've probably been told a lot of things about your neck or about your pain that are probably not true, and they probably just scare you. So we want to re-educate you and then make sure that we can reduce the stress as much as possible, but then exercise. Prove to your body that it's safe to exercise, and we just need to tailor those things to the individual, if that makes sense. Okay, what other questions did I miss in here? Give me a second. Guys, if you have any other questions about anything, it doesn't have to be about the topic from today necessarily. Okay. By the way, somebody, Apur Vakasha, you did say McGill stuff. Yeah, The Gift of Injury is a McGill book. I disagree with his point in the book, which is that you have to learn proper spinal hygiene. That is bullshit. That's not true. But if we look at spinal hygiene, kind of the opposite of the way McGill would look at it, and we look at it like, oh, you should be able to move your spine and brace your spine, and you need mobility and you need strength. And then we look at just lifestyle hygiene, which is, like I said, stress management, exercise, nutrition, and sleep. Then we can learn that, which is just learning how to take care of ourselves. Yeah, David Goggins. Yeah, the point of the episode today on embracing your pain is definitely not about pushing it like somebody like David Goggins. You know, he pushes to the point where he fractures most of the bones in his foot and then gets rhabdo, and his kidneys, are getting close to failing just because he runs a ultra marathon and he won't stop. Really impressive, super impressive. And I loved his first book. I haven't read his second book. So by all means, like, David Goggins is incredibly inspirational. If you ever want to be inspired, go read his book. But in reality, like, what I'm talking about with embracing pain is not the same. What I'm talking about is genuinely having compassion for yourself and being a little bit gentler with yourself, and saying that pain is a teacher. But pain is not something to try to get more of. It's just that if we're going to have pain anyway, let's try to learn what we can from it and be gentle with ourselves and sort of look at ourselves like a parent would look at a child who's suffering. That's more the angle that we want to look at pain from. At this point, guys, if anybody joined late, we are done talking about the main stuff. That episode will get released as a podcast later. I still haven't decided if I'm going to keep all these Q&As on YouTube. I will eventually put these all in our free community. So if you want to make sure you get like any kind of extra stuff that we're doing, then just join our free community, or join one of our memberships if you actually want us to write your program for you. Okay, what else did I miss? Okay, oh, wait. Let me take Ben one more time. I'm hiking, doing glutes and weights. Thank you. Sorry to monopolize neuropathy too. Ugh. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you're trying to do what you can, which is good. And so obviously we need to operate within what we would call our safe pain protocols. Like I said, we have videos on that, but I think when you do have a complicated situation, I mean, the reality is, if you want my opinion on whether we could help you or whether I could, we even have resources, like what video would I send you or what should you be doing, really, in a situation like that, I just need to talk to you and actually get to know what you're dealing with, because there's going to be a lot more questions. If you're hiking and doing glutes and weights, it sounds good on paper, but how much are you doing? How often are you doing it? How much pain do you have while you're doing it? Are you pushing too much? Are you skipping steps? Or are you babying yourself? Or maybe you're pushing it really hard on the few things that you feel like you can do, but then you're avoiding all these other exercises because you think that those are going to cause you pain. And then obviously we've got to look at other lifestyle factors like stress, sleep, and nutrition. So, without actually understanding, the metaphor we like is what's in your cup. If you have a cup, the cup is only so big and it can only fill with so much stuff. If you put too much stuff in the cup overflows and we have pain. So we got to figure out what's in your cup. We got to take stuff out of your cup, and then we need to build you a bigger cup, which is looking at mental and physical resilience. Okay. But that's kind of, it's just hard to do that with short messages on, like a chat like this. If you do join our free community, then just, post in the group, say hello, and then I can send you a direct message as well. I just have to manually enable your ability to send me a direct message in the group, and I'm happy to hear more about you. You can actually send voice notes too. If I do unlock your ability to send me a direct message in our free community, then you can send me a voice memo if that's easier. You can just tell me what's going on and maybe we can help you. If I can't help you, then I'll point you in a different direction. We have people all the time that, I might have to point in a different direction. So happy to get to know you and see what's going on. Okay, next question. From I am happy. Love it. Theme of the day. My neurologist referred me to a physiotherapist. She had me lie on my stomach and applied a spring-like pressure on both SI joints. You have pain on the left side. And she told me that my left side was not springing. It didn't have a spring to it. What do I think about that? I think that's bullshit. I mean, it is. So we know that motion, it's called motion palpation. and it's notoriously unreliable. We have a lot of studies on this. In fact, this is really embarrassing. We even have studies looking at clinicians' ability to locate the PSIS. In fact, I'm going to step away from give me 1 second. I got to grab a spine model. I'll show you. Okay, so if you see a video of this, maybe later this will be an audio podcast or something. But anyway, if you're looking on video, then in your sacroiliac joint, we've got the PSIS, which is the posterior superior iliac spine. And that's just the really big bony bump that's right next to your sacroiliac joint. You'd think that because this big bony bump is so big and bony and bumpy, that it would be very easy to find and agree on where it is located. But even when we take trained clinicians, chiropractors, physical therapists, and we ask, you line up 10 of them and we say, we want you to feel around and try to find this big bony bump and then just, tell us where it is. I forget in these studies if they used a marker or like a little BB or something like that. Anyway, they asked like 10 of them to try to agree on where this big bony bump is. And they don't really agree. Some of them point up here. Some of them point down here. Some of them are, kind of off to the inside or the outside. So nobody's really agreeing on where this bony bump is, even on a real human being, where, you can feel the bump, but nobody's agreeing on where it is. Anyway, my point is, if we can't even agree on where this massive bony bump is by feeling it, how the hell do you think we're going to agree on whether it is, quote, springy, right? Is it actually moving? No, the freaking SI joint doesn't move. It moves like a couple millimeters. It barely moves. You cannot feel that. That is a hallucination. That is a learned hallucination. Physical therapists and chiropractors and massage therapists are basically just trained to learn to hallucinate these findings. So yeah, it's not real. Does not exist. Don't worry about it. Ignore what they're saying. Not a real thing. All right. Next question. Should I go to my physio? Maybe. The problem with a lot of, actually before I answer that, same person says, but McGill has built very good athletes. I don't know who to believe. Everybody thinks differently. Yeah, I guess. McGill is famous. And so McGill gets a lot of athletes that go to him because he's famous. Also, the way that you would treat an athlete is not the way that you would treat a normal person. Because actually an athlete, we would try to push them back to their sport because their livelihood depends on it. And we would probably push them back into sport prematurely in a lot of cases because there's a lot of pressure to get them back back in the game. Anyway, that's not a good comparison. It's just, it's like a marketing trick, it doesn't really make any difference. McGill is full of shit. I'm just going to say it. McGill, the reason why people buy into McGill's method is because it does work short term when you're in a lot of really excruciating pain. If you have severe debilitating pain and you start bracing your core and limiting your spinal motion, you will immediately have less pain. And it works. But if you do it long term, you develop fear, you have worse hydration of the disc and worse healing of your spine because you're limiting motion. And we know that motion is what facilitates hydration, pumping in and out of the disc itself. Motion is lotion for the discs. They don't have a blood supply in the majority of the disc, a little bit on the outside, but the majority of the disc does not have a blood supply. So you have to move the spine. So we can use core stability tricks in the beginning or when necessary or with really heavy lifting. But for the majority of people, they just get really afraid of their spine when they start getting into reading Stu McGill. So I really, really would push against Stu McGill's methods because we get so many people and also the research that he's quoting, not all the time, but most of the time, is basically him taking a dead pig spine and hooking up to a machine. So dead pig spine, not a live human spine, and then just messing with it and flexing and extending and just trying to break the thing. And then they're like, oh, when we take a dead pig spine and we try to break it, it herniates. Oh, so I guess bending is bad for your spine. I know that there are other studies that he's involved with, and I cite his studies very frequently because there are some really interesting studies actually, it's hilarious. Some of his own studies disprove his own fear-mongering bullshit. Like there's a study that he published on kettlebell swings where we have we're observing somebody doing a kettlebell swing and they're trying to keep a neutral spine. And when we actually measure it, so if you look at it with your eyeballs, you're like, oh, that person has a neutral spine. But when we actually measure the movement in their spine during a kettlebell swing, what we see is that they're flexing, they're bending their spine even when they're trying to keep it neutral. And they're flexing their spine. I think off the top of my head, it was like 35 or 47 degrees. I mean, they were really flexing their spine quite a bit, even, while it looked neutral. So anyway, it's just interesting. Okay. And so as far as like, should you go to a physical therapist? I mean, in a perfect world, physical therapists would be the best place to go for chronic pain, but they're not trained to address the other factors of lifestyle that influence pain, like stress, anxiety, fear, etc., as well as sleep or nutrition. So they're just not going to address that stuff. In fact, they're probably going to make you more afraid of your spine by telling you that if you bend your spine, something bad is going to happen. And then the exercises that most physical therapists give are just basic cookie cutter bullshit. It's just core stability and glute bridges, maybe some nerve flossing, right? I could probably guess, most of you that have been to physical therapy, I can just guess because I'm psychic. I'm psychic and I can guess what exercises they gave you. They gave you a bird dog. They gave you a side plank. They gave you a glute bridge. They gave you a dead bug. I already said dead bug and bird dog. Maybe a plank, right? Maybe a piriformis stretch. Oh, there we go. We're getting fancy. So anyway, it's silly bullshit. We need to address full body mobility, strength, and cardio gradually over time. And we need to look at lifestyle factors. Okay. I appreciate that you find a balance between the mind and body and graded movement. Yep. We're here to help you. That was the only PT I was given. McGill. How can you do all that all day? Yeah, you don't. It's silly. We need to progress. We need to look at more full body movements. Next comment. I've literally wasted 1 year on McGill and his book. Yeah. Sorry. That's okay though, because now you can move forward with an evidence-based rehab plan. So if you guys need any help, obviously we're here to help. Since we've had a ton of comments here since the last time I dropped this link, if anybody does need help, we have a free course. I literally just a week ago published a free course. It's totally free. And I even give you some downloadable worksheets and stuff to help you understand how to put together a rehab program. So it's free. And then if you want an actual like program, a more comprehensive approach, we have a do-it-yourself option, which is super affordable. But if you actually want us to write your program, we also make that super affordable as far as one-on-one support goes. So if you're at all curious about what we could do for you, whether you want some free support or you want us to write your program or something in between, I put that link in the chat and it's always in the description of our videos now. Okay, next question. Do you know Jim Prusuk from Pain PT? Regular PT seems useless. Jim Prusuk. No, I don't. Well, maybe I do. Maybe I just don't know the name. Give me a second. The Pain PT. Let me see if I know this guy. Chronic health symptoms. Oh, okay. So a brain and nervous system approach. Who is this guy? I can't find a picture. I'm looking for a picture because maybe I'll recognize. No, I don't know. No clue. Couldn't. Oh, Australia. Yeah, there's. It's surprising how many Australians, because they got the Noi group down there, and they've got a lot of kind of like Lorimer Moseley and some of those guys that are really into pain science down there in Australia, and also in New Zealand. We got a lot of people that are really into pain science. So I think the most important thing is no matter what you do, you really need to make sure that you're taking an approach that is not just nervous system and not just exercise. I guess this is super frustrating to me. And this is why I mean, I'm very, very, very confident in our program, but I'm trying to say this in a way that's not super biased. I mean, I think everybody would claim that like, oh, my program, nobody does what we do. I genuinely don't know anybody that does what we do. I know tons of people that do one part of what we do. Like they do exercise or they do, nervous system regulation. But the thing that just blows my mind is that everybody seems to like choose a camp, right? It's either nervous system regulation and we just have to work through education on pain science. And then when it comes to actual exercise program design with those guys, it's just like, well, I don't know. You should just try to choose some meaningful movements and just get active again and do what, if it hurts a little bit, but not too much, then it's okay. Just go do some exercise. But the problem with that is it's not, usually what they're lacking is a really structured approach to exercise because they decided to go way down the path of nervous system regulation, pain science. Yeah. From, CALI. And with Moseley and all that kind of stuff. Again, Moseley is amazing. David Butler is amazing. I've got their books on my shelf over here. Like Lorimer Moseley and David Butler are like the guys. Adrian Lowe, as well. I mean, he literally wrote the friggin' manual. It's somewhere over here, on chronic pain science. So these are great, great, great places to borrow inspiration and education from. But the problem is when it comes down to then exercising, they fall short, right? They're not going to tell you that you should be doing these 8 exercises in this order, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but then Tuesday, Thursday, you should be doing different exercises and a recovery day. And here's how many sets and repetitions and how long your rest periods should be. And here's how we progress a hinge variation versus a squat variation versus a lunge variation versus flexion, extension, lateral flexion, rotation, hip mobility, hip strength, back mobility, back strength. There's just a lot to it. And they're just not, in my experience, the programs that I have looked at, or when we get people coming from other people's programs, I try to ask them as much as I can because I'm curious what other people are doing. Usually, the people that are really onto the nervous system stuff are not giving a good exercise-based approach, right? But then the other side of the coin is people that are really prescriptive with exercise, and they do lay it all out. Like, here's exactly how many sets and reps, and here's the exact exercises they do. Usually those people are only focusing on corrective exercises, meaning, fix your muscle imbalances and asymmetry, which we know from research is bullshit. That's not a real thing. Doesn't matter. Or they're scaring you because they're telling you that your body's out of alignment and bad things are going to happen, blah, blah, blah. That's not good. Or even if they're not actively scaring you, they're just missing the nervous system regulation and nutrition, sleep. They're just only looking at you from an exercise perspective, and that sucks, right? Or there is actually one program I'm aware of that they're pretty evidence based, and they do try to strike a good balance of mind versus body. But the problem with them is they don't actually give you one-on-one support. So you don't have a real like expert in your corner to build the program for you. So anyway, I don't know. And then if we actually get into the real medical system and we look at physical therapy and chiropractic and medical doctors and surgeons and all that, and pain management specialists. Oy. I mean, then we really go off a deep end with like the system is just built for failure. So I don't know, it sucks. My doctor said I might have an autoimmune condition because 6 joints are getting painful without any injury, and I'm just 18 years old and you're hypermobile. Well, obviously, you should talk to your doctor and see if they should refer you to rheumatology and see if rheumatology has any tests that they would like to do. They should be the ones getting to know you. And there are a lot of different ways that they can test for various autoimmune conditions. So you should have those tests. But even if we came back and we found some type of autoimmune condition, or maybe it's not autoimmune, maybe it's just a connective tissue issue like Ehlers-Danlos or something like that. Even if we have that information, sometimes there are some specific treatments that can be helpful. So that's something to talk to your doctor about, see if they want to send you to rheumatology. But even if you have that information and had some type of autoimmune condition, in addition to whatever treatments you and your doctor decide are appropriate, you would still benefit from looking at what we would call modifiable risk factors. What are the things that you have in your control to reduce inflammation? Because autoimmune conditions, highly sensitive to systemic chronic inflammation. How do we control systemic chronic inflammation? Well, we can't control it completely, but we can influence it with, we call it the 4 pillars, but it's just exercise, mental health, nutrition, and sleep. So those can be big levers that we can pull. And we have a lot of people that we've worked with in our Beyond Back Pain program who have autoimmune conditions. So whether it's, thyroid or rheumatoid or, a lot of different types of autoimmune conditions that we've seen. Okay. So anyway, you still want to focus on lifestyle factors, and there's still a lot that you can do. Wade, your program is amazing. It saved me and kept me going. Dude, you're such a rock star. I love your positivity, man. And it's been awesome to see you get back into, running guns and weightlifting and just kicking ass. Not to mention, you just crack me up every time you comment on anything or on the group calls. It's always a pleasure having you, man. Ben, do you believe that pain can cause the fear loop and not all ACE? It becomes frustrating if that's not the issue. Yes, mind body people offer no physical info. Just get back to it. Yeah. And it's all childhood trauma. Exactly. No, we gotta focus on the present moment. What do you mean? I just want to make sure, I'm an hour and 20 minutes into live streaming and maybe my brain is going blank. Why did you capitalize ACE? Is that an acronym that I should know? What are you talking about? But as far as your question, can pain cause a fear loop? Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Pain can cause a fear loop. And no, we do not have to just blame fear and pain on, adverse childhood events or trauma or any of that stuff. Let me say it this way. So me and Dr. Blake, we work with so many people in our program who have had a lot of very, very challenging things happen in their life. And even if they have had adverse childhood events, our job is not to psychoanalyze them. We're not your therapist. That's not our scope of practice. We don't want to open up that can of worms. And we definitely don't want to try to blame things that may or may not have happened. When it really gets bad, we've heard kind of horror stories of people who they go into therapy feeling like they don't have trauma. They say, no, I don't think I've had any trauma in my life. And then they go to therapy and then a therapist convinces them that they had trauma. And then they feel, well, it just goes to bad places. So we don't want to either trudge up the past in a way that is re-traumatizing if somebody has had trauma. That's not our scope of practice, and we don't want to mess with that. But on the other side of the coin, we don't want to make somebody feel traumatized if they weren't. Like, we don't want to make them dwell so much on their mental health that they start, then we create a new thing that they need to be afraid of. So we don't like any of that. So what I'm saying is, because that's not our scope of practice, and because I don't even think it's really helpful. So for those cases, like, we would obviously have them work with a therapist as well, but that's not really for the pain and rehab. That's just to help so that they can stay compliant with their exercises and have the right mindset and a trajectory forward and be able to communicate with us and not catastrophize, that type of stuff. But ultimately, the cool thing is we can address the nervous system without having to talk about trauma, whether or not there was trauma, whether it's somebody who, yes, they had trauma, or no, they did not have trauma. That's not really the point. What we need to do is find a way that we can regulate our nervous system and exercise without having to psychoanalyze you. And it's not that complicated. I think just some people need a real human being to talk to and bounce ideas off of and keep you on track and motivate you when you're having a rough day. And then help you find ways to find some joy in your life and find some ways to bring, fulfillment into your life. So anyway, yeah, I hope that answers the question. And yeah, it's pretty much BS listening to the tension myositis syndrome, people saying everything is trauma. Yeah. It's not about trauma. This is why I really like the cup analogy, because we don't have to psychoanalyze somebody. And here's the other thing too. If I was talking to somebody and I was trying to ask them, like, what's in your cup? Right. So we got a cup. The cup can only hold so much stuff. If it overflows, we get pain. If we ask them and we just say, like, hey, like, do you think that stress or mental health is impacting your pain at all? If somebody says, no, I don't think so, in that moment, I'm not going to push them on that. I'm not going to make them feel like, oh yeah, well, what about trauma and blah, blah, blah. We need to be a team. So for some of those people, I can sense that they're not, they either don't want to share, or they're genuinely not aware of how much their nervous system is wound up. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that later, and sometimes the path forward is just bringing a positive experience with movement or exercise or in some other aspect of their life. And we can circle back to the nervous system when they're ready for it. But we would never want to push that on somebody. It's not helpful. And if anything, if you have an overactive nervous system and we call it out, then you're going to get defensive about it. And that actually makes the problem worse. So it's not helpful. Okay. Question. Can a herniated disc cause an annoying stabbing pain in one SI joint? Pain which, however, does not radiate anywhere. But don't get worked up. Every expert has their own opinion, so it's hard to shake off all that information. Don't tell me not to get worked up. I'm going to get real worked up. Here, let me do this. Tell you what, let me share a video. It's one of our most popular videos. Disc herniation recovery times. This is one of our most popular videos, but it's also all of our myth busting. It's like the most important myth busting on disc herniations. Here you go. I put that in the chat. And if anybody's listening to this later on our YouTube channel, the title of the video is Disc Herniation Recovery Time, How Long to Heal Low Back Pain and Sciatica. It opens with me popping a balloon full of red paint all over my face. So enjoy. Anyway, yeah, no, I don't. I think that's bullshit is what I think. Because everybody has disc herniations or disc bulges or disc degeneration, whether or not they have pain. And the only time we actually worry about a disc herniation is if it's causing red flags. So if it's not causing radiating pain, then the disc does not matter by definition. Because the only reason a disc herniation really matters is if it's herniated so much that it's compressing a nerve, and that it's compressing the nerve so much that we're getting red flag symptoms like incontinence or foot drop, right? Loss of control of bowel or bladder, whatever, like actual issues. Then, yeah, we should definitely talk about that disc herniation. But Yeah, without that stuff, I would not be worried about the disc herniation. And as far as every expert has their own opinion, yeah, but it's not my opinion. Watch the video. I cite like 20 something studies in that video. So most people, if you ask them about their opinion, even if they claim to be an expert, they're not going to be citing actual peer reviewed research. And if they are, they're probably just cherry picking, and they don't understand what we would call the totality of evidence, or the preponderance of evidence, right? So looking at the totality of all of the research on a subject and being able to understand why certain contradictions or, these things exist in research. Okay. So yeah, disc herniations, don't worry about them unless there's really, really obvious nerve symptoms to go along with it, and red flags. Okay. I'd say probably 40% of the people that we work with in the Beyond Back Pain program have sciatic symptoms that are very obviously nervy. We're still not really worried about the disc herniation, even though the disc herniation can be one factor. It can be one piece of the pie. So we're not saying disc herniations don't matter at all. What we're saying is it's such a small piece of the pie that it's not worth thinking about. And having a disc herniation, that knowledge does not help you decide what to do for your rehab. It doesn't tell you which exercises to do, because two people with the same disc herniation could do the same exact exercise, and one of them, it makes their pain worse, and the other one, it helps their pain. It offers pain relief. So textbook example would be McKenzie exercises, the prone press-ups. A lot of people respond really well to it, but some people with the same disc herniation, it just irritates their symptoms. So it's not helpful. There's no value to talking about the disc herniation in that way, especially if there's no radiating symptoms. All right, next comment. I have an issue and I'm not very consistent. Any tips with that? For the past years, exercises on and off. Well, there's your problem right there. That's your problem. For the past years, exercises on and off. That doesn't work. You're bouncing back and forth between doing too much and too little. So you need to find some amount of exercise that you can do consistently without irritating your symptoms, and then gradually progress. You need to be consistent. The details, like I said, we've got a free course that tells you a little bit about how to put together an exercise program, or if anybody just wants us to do it for them, then you can always join our program and we can put together a program for you. But yeah, you got to be consistent. And it just takes longer than you want. And you're going to have some ups and downs, but you can still be consistent through the ups and downs if you know how to modify your exercises. Okay, guys. An allostatic load. Yes, exactly. The cup analogy is just a metaphor for allostatic load. That is correct. Okay, guys. Any other questions? I'll give you like 1 second. I ran out of tea and my throat is very parched after an hour and a half of yelling at the camera. Okay. Questions. Anything else you guys want to know right now? Otherwise, I'm going to take off. I'm going to get some water or some tea, or maybe I'll take a nap. Actually, you know what I think I will do is probably do some yoga nidra. Yeah. Yoga nidra is my favorite. Oh, hey, Allie. Good to see you. Okay. Guys, if you have any other questions, here's what you're going to do. If you have any other questions and you're not in our program, why are you not in our program? What the hell is wrong with you? I mean, again, we have a free version. We have a free course that I just published like last week. We have a do-it-yourself program. And then if you want our help, if you want us to just help you and give you a one-on-one program and be there for you, just go in there. We can help you. We got you. The link is in the description. Okay. One last question here. How many days to work out in a week in rehab? It depends. Sorry. It depends on what phase of rehab you're in. In the beginning, when you're doing really gentle things, we would have you do some kind of movement every day. Even when we get to more intense exercise, we'd still have you do some type of movement every day just to loosen things up. But once you start doing really intense exercises, you can really only do a hard workout at most every other day. But really, once you get to real strength training, we'd only be doing like a hard workout 2, maybe 3 times a day. Sometimes for some people we do 2 to 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes 4 times a week, but yeah, with a hard workout, we're just doing, a few times a week. And then on your off days, we would just do some gentle mobility or something to loosen things up, go for a walk, do some gentle yoga, stuff like that. But yeah, the amount of days to work out in a week, it depends on what phase of rehab you're in. If you want all that mapped out, again, like we have a do-it-yourself workout builder. If you want to just use that, it's in our Start Here link. You can go there. It's called our Basic Access, and you can get access to all the tools if you just want to do it yourself. But if you've got a million questions and it's confusing and hard to put it together for yourself, then just reach out. If you got some questions about whether we can help you one-on-one, then feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to talk about your situation and see if we can put together a program for you. Okay. Any other questions? Anything else? I'll give you I think there's a 20-second delay between you hearing me and response. So I'll give it 15 more seconds. If I don't see anything else, we're going to take off. But yeah, if you guys want all of the best resources, at the very least, join our free community. We've got a bunch of good stuff in there, and the community is for free. So you can at least comment there. Allie says, how I used to abuse my sweet body with everyday hard workouts, sometimes multiple a day. Yeah. That's the endurance coper, just push through it, and today's episode was all about how even though I said embrace the pain, it's not about pushing through unnecessary pain. It's about really understanding that middle ground. So if for some reason you didn't catch the whole episode, go back and listen to it later. I think this one's going to be really helpful for you specifically. Actually, something you said elsewhere inspired part of what I was talking about today. And then let's see, big guns with a beagle for a profile picture. Nice. Where do I practice? I live in Denver, Colorado. That's where I practice, but we actually work with people 100% online. So if you do want our help, we work 100% online. We work with people all over the world. So you can just go there and get started for free, or do it yourself, or get some one-on-one help. But yeah, if you want some help, we work with people all over the world. And I think this is a better way of practicing. I used to do a lot of in-person stuff, and it just became, frankly, a waste of time to do a bunch of rub the muscle, crack the joint, whatever. What really works, and what we've seen really works, is actually having communication and a day-to-day program, and then somebody that you can reach out to who can just personalize your program, who's just a quick message away. That's way more effective than having to drive to a clinic and hang out for an hour and then you have no help in between visits. That kind of sucks. So anyway, I like the way we do it better. I think we get better results since we switched to doing things 100% online. So, all right, guys, I don't see any other questions. So that's it for today. I don't know if I'm going to keep all these Q&As on YouTube. So they will definitely be in the free community, but haven't decided on that. We'll see. Anyway, if you guys need anything else, reach out, jump into the free community. We'll see you there, and we'll see you next time. Take care.